Welcome back to the Sleepy Antiquarian. Tonight, we venture into the darkest archives of fantasy, to a forgotten realm bound by magic, betrayal, and eternal sleep. Imagine the grand kingdom of Aethelgard, a land once ruled by power, seats, and ancient enchantment. At its center was Empress Elara, a ruler whose mesmerizing beauty was matched only by the mysterious magic flowing through her veins. When a powerful curse threatened to destroy her entire civilization, Empress Elara made a fateful, dramatic choice. She bound her own life to the ancient amber amulet, freezing the entire royal empire in a single, timeless sleep to protect her people forever. Close your eyes, let your mind drift into the halls of this candlelit palace, and listen to the haunting story of the empress who sacrificed her world to grant her kingdom eternal peace. Long before the eternal sleep fell upon Aethelgard, the imperial citadel stood as a titan of dark stone and ancient sorcery. Empress Elara sat upon the Obsidian throne, surrounded by noble houses whose loyalty was painted in lies and hidden daggers. She was not merely a sovereign, the sole guardian of the primordial flame, an ancient power capable of turning entire armies to ash or granting eternal life to an empire. On the eve of the solar alignment, the High Vizier executed a silent coup within the palace walls. Banished guards fell without a sound as dark shadow casters breached the outer sanctuaries, hungry for the power resting in Elara's veins. Knowing that her fall would mean the absolute destruction and enslavement of her people, Empress Elara sealed the heavy bronze doors of her private sanctuary. She refused to surrender the kingdom to blood and ruin. Standing before the ancient altar, Elara unveiled the Amber Amulet, a relic forged from the heart of a fallen star. To unleash its ultimate defensive magic, she was required to pay the ultimate price, her own consciousness. With a single whisper in the forgotten tongue of the ancients, she shattered the crystal seal, casting a massive wave of golden enchantment that expanded across every hall, tower, and city wall. The spell froze time itself. Traders remained transfixed in mid-stride, weapons falling uselessly into absolute silence. Walking slowly to her velvet couch, Elara lay down as her heartbeat synchronized with the glowing stone upon her chest. Her sacrifice froze her kingdom in an unbreakable, peaceful sanctuary, safe from time, war, and mortality forever. Years turned into centuries, yet the grand gates of Aethelgard remained untouched by decay. Inside the silent city, fountains hovered in perpetual motion, water droplets frozen like floating diamonds in the air. The marketplace stalls were still filled with silks and spices that never withered, guarded by merchants whose expressions were locked in a serene, untroubled calm. No living creature dared cross the border, for legends spoke of the great sleep that trapped anyone who breathed the realm's enchanted air. Yet, driven by ancient prophecies, a lone traveler finally breached the outer walls, holding a silver lantern that flickered wildly against the heavy magic. As he stepped into the silent throne room, the absolute weight of 1,000 years of peace fell upon his shoulders. There she lay, upon the velvet chaise, untouched by time, the glowing amber amulet still pulsing against her chest with a faint, hypnotic heartbeat. The traveler fell to his knees, realizing that the Empress was not dead nor imprisoned. She was actively dreaming, holding back a nightmare that lurked just beyond the edges of the universe. Every breath she took kept her people safe in a world frozen outside of time. As the traveler watched in spellbound silence, he felt the heavy exhaustion of his own long journey melt away into the quiet air. The deep, unbreakable peace of the sleeping palace began to wrap around him like a warm silk blanket. In this forgotten sanctuary, even the greatest wanderer must finally rest his eyes.
As the traveler stepped closer to the sleeping Empress, the ambient light in the sanctuary began to shift into a soft, ethereal violet glow. The glowing amber amulet upon Elara's chest was not merely keeping time still, it was acting as a beacon, weaving an invisible astral bridge between her dreams and the minds of those who entered her presence. Without speaking a word, the traveler felt the silent weight of her memories flowing into his own thoughts. Through this psychic bridge, he witnessed the ancient realm of Aethelgard before the Grand Slumber, a civilization built on celestial knowledge and magical craftsmanship. He saw Empress Elara standing atop the highest observatory, holding the sacred scrolls that held the secrets to controlling time and emotion. She had foreseen that the world outside would one day consume itself with chaos and endless conflict. Her choice to cast the spell of eternal rest was not an act of desperation, but a deliberate act of ultimate protection. She had preserved the purest chapter of human history inside an eternal crystal bubble, waiting for an era when peace could truly reign once more. The traveler felt a profound sense of awe washing over him, realizing the immense strength behind her tranquil expression. Sitting softly near the foot of her velvet chaise, the traveler felt his own lingering tensions and doubts slowly dissolve into the silent chamber, surrounded by the ancient magic and the Empress's unwavering serenity. His mind surrendered to the deep, comforting quiet of the palace. He closed his eyes, protected under the eternal watch of the sleeping Empress. Beneath the central chamber of the sleeping palace lay the Vault of Forgotten Stars, a sacred chamber forged by the first sorcerers of Aethelgard. Here, ancient astrological maps were carved into dark obsidian pillars, glowing with a soft, pulsing starlight. This subterranean vault was the true source of the kingdom's magic, feeding energy directly into the amber amulet resting on Empress Elara's chest. Centuries ago, during the Great Rebellion, rival warlords sought to shatter this underground core to drain the Empire's power. Recognizing the impending catastrophe, Elara had descended into the vault alone, wearing her imperial robes and wielding the staff of the first monarchs. With a quiet oath, she linked her soul to the stellar mechanisms, ensuring that no mortal army could ever breach the sanctuary's foundation. As time stood still above, celestial gears within the vault continued to turn in absolute silence. Each turning constellation protected a different corner of the realm, keeping the harvest fields pristine, the grand libraries intact, and the sleeping citizens safe from age and decay. Her continuous dream was the only anchor preventing the entire world from collapsing into chaos. Standing in the quiet glow of the underground vault, the ancient magic cradles your thoughts in absolute tranquility. Feel the steady, rhythmic pulse of the forgotten stars as they watch over the realm. In this untouchable sanctuary beneath the sleeping empire, you are free to let go of every burden and rest in deep peace. Deep within the western wing of the Citadel stood the Archives of the Eclipse, a massive library of dark oak, gold-bound folios, and forgotten scrolls. Locked inside a glass altar at the center of the hall was the Grimoire of Somnus, dark magical tome that Empress Elara had studied before casting her grand enchantment over Aethelgard. Its pages held the secrets of ancient dream-weaving, a dangerous magic known only to the royal bloodline. History remembered Elara as a soft-spoken ruler, but few knew the fierce intellect and raw power she possessed. When the warlords surrounded her city, she spent 7 sleepless nights in these archives, decoding the complex stellar geometry required full time upon itself. She sacrificed her own freedom, knowingly trapping her consciousness in a dream world to preserve the wisdom, beauty, and lives of her people. Now, as the soft glow of the ancient grimoire pulsed in rhythm with the Empress's distant heartbeat, the quiet archive stood as a sanctuary of endless knowledge. The towering shelves held thousands of stories, yet all of them were peacefully paused, kept pristine from the decay of passing centuries. The magic radiating from the archives enveloped the palace in a profound intellectual calm. Let the deep, quiet wisdom of these ancient archives wrap gently around your mind. Here, surrounded by centuries of silent knowledge and the Empress's protective spell, there are no unanswered questions to worry about, no lingering thoughts to chase. You are completely safe to quiet your mind, release the day's fatigue, and drift into a deep, uninterrupted rest. Flanking the grand rotunda lay the glass sanctuary, a sunlit courtyard framed by towering stained glass arches and white marble pillars. Here slept the royal court, nobles, priestesses, and faithful maidens of Empress Elara's inner circle. When the time-folding spell was cast, not a single soul panicked. They accepted the magical sleep with absolute grace, trusting their ruler's unyielding protection. Draped in fine silks and velvet, the maidens reclined along cushioned marble alcoves, looking as though they had merely paused mid-conversation. In the center of the hall, the high priestess held a crystal chalice containing the sacred Starlight Elixir, a potion that preserved their youthful beauty and vitality throughout the centuries. Not a single wrinkle or trace of age had touched their serene faces since the spell began. The absolute loyalty of her court was Elara's greatest shield. Their collective peaceful thoughts resonated with the amber amulet, amplifying the defensive aura that repelled dark forces from breaking into the palace. Together, as one royal household, they maintained the golden sanctuary of silence against the chaotic world outside. As you walk past the silent, beautiful court, wrapped in timeless tranquility, feel the heavy air of devotion and peace surrounding you. Let their gentle, unwavering stillness calm your restless mind. In this sanctuary of absolute trust and quiet grace, you are entirely safe to close your eyes, surrender your worries, and drift into a deep, peaceful sleep. High above the inner courtyard lay the chamber of spectral mirrors, framed by obsidian arches and silver chandeliers. Here stood the great looking glass of Aethelgard, an ancient artifact forged by the Sun Priest to reveal hidden truths and distant prophecies. On the night before the great slumber, Empress Elara stood alone before its shimmering surface, gazing at the destiny of her empire. The mirror did not reflect her physical beauty, but the weight of her sacrifices. She saw the shadowy forces gathering at the borders, ready to breach the gates and strip her people of their freedom. Knowing that war would bring only ruin, Elara made her ultimate resolution. She would capture the entire reflection of her kingdom and lock it within a golden dream forever. As she raised her hand to seal the mirror's frame, her reflection remained fixed in a state of eternal grace. The spectral glass absorbed all fear, doubt, and conflict, leaving only profound harmony within the palace walls. Today, the quiet reflections inside the chamber stand completely still, protecting the realm's secrets from the passage of time. Standing in the gentle glow of the mirror chamber, let every restless thought in your mind fade into the quiet atmosphere. Just as the mirror swallowed the noise of the old world, let this peaceful sanctuary wash away your daily worries. You are safe, protected by the Empress's ancient spell, free to surrender to deep, restorative slumber. Tucked inside the heart of the inner citadel was the Crimson Courtyard, a lush, marble-paved sanctuary where thousands of deep red roses bloomed. These were no ordinary flowers. They were cultivated by the realm's royal alchemists, infused with starlight and life magic.
When Empress Elara initiated the eternal sleep, every rose froze at the absolute peak of its beauty, never dropping a single petal. Draped in soft velvet robes, Elara used to walk these quiet marble paths when preparing her mind for the great rituals. The roses absorbed her softest thoughts, storing the gentle warmth of her spirit within their golden pollen. Today, the Crimson Garden stands as a living testament to her devotion, a frozen paradise where time has no power over beauty or life. As the amber magic radiates from the central palace, a subtle golden dust hovers over the rose petals in the windless air. Anyone who steps into this courtyard feels an immediate wave of serenity, washing away centuries of fatigue and stress. The sanctuary remains forever protected, wrapped in the Empress's peaceful, unconditional embrace. Breathe in the peaceful, untouched calm of this crimson sanctuary. Let the timeless beauty of the garden ease every tension in your body. Surrounded by pure magic and the unbroken sleep of Aethelgard, you are safe to close your eyes, drift away from the world, and rest deeply tonight. Inside the gallery of Selene, music was never meant for simple entertainment. It was the royal court's most lethal cipher. Empress Elara had trained her royal bards to compose acoustic spells that could calm panicked crowds or manipulate the emotions of visiting diplomats. When the northern warlords sent spies into her court under the guise of ambassadors, Elara used the gallery's golden harp to expose their lies. Beneath the silver strings lay hidden resonance channels built into the palace's marble floor. By playing specific melancholic chords, Elara could trigger a subtle hypnotic spell, forcing treacherous guests to confess their true motives before the council. On the night the siege began, she sat at the harp alone, weaving the final, massive acoustic defense ring around the fortress walls. As the enemy commanders reached the outer gates, Elara struck a powerful, forbidden harmonic frequency. The sound wave instantly paralyzed every invading soldier where they stood, heavy armor vibrating as their minds were trapped in a dark, infinite maze. The gallery became the battleground where an entire invading army was neutralized without spilling a single drop of royal blood. With the threat halted, Elara permanently locked the harp's central gear, embedding its protective sonic wave into the stone walls forever. She walked away from the silent instrument and retreated to her velvet couch, leaving her enemies frozen in eternal defeat outside the hall. Her brilliant, silent strategy secured the Empire's ultimate victory. On the third night before the Starlight ritual, Empress Elara uncovered a treasonous plot hatched by her own royal council. Lord Vane, the Master of War, had secretly aligned with the rival northern warlords, offering them access to the rival northern warlords, offering them access to the kingdom's ancient crystal core in exchange for total authority over the southern provinces. Elara discovered the forged scrolls locked inside the council room's hidden stone safe. Instead of executing the traitors publicly and sparking a bloody civil war within her capital, Elara took a far more calculated path. She summoned the Grand Alchemist in secret and commanded him to prepare the Amber Amulet for the ultimate binding ceremony. She knew that an open military conflict would destroy millions of innocent lives, leaving her entire civilization in ashes and blood. Elara confronted Lord Vane directly in the High Royal Council chamber, displaying the forged seals upon her mahogany table. Before the warlord could draw his blade or signal his hidden assassins, Elara activated the sacred rune on her signet ring, locking every heavy bronze door in the Citadel simultaneously. She announced that her realm would never fall to greed, nor would its people bleed for a traitor's ambition.
She turned her back on the disarmed traitors, walked into her private sanctuary, and placed the amber amulet directly over her chest. With a single powerful spell, she froze every conspirator mid-stride, sealing their weapons, their movements, and their ambitions in timeless stone forever. Empress Elara lay back upon her velvet chaise, triumphing over her enemies through her eternal, victorious sacrifice. Hidden behind the eastern tapestry of the Grand Hall was the Armory of Shadows, a subterranean forge built by the ancient sorcerer-smiths of Aethelgard. Here rested the enchanted suits of plate armor, forged from star iron and infused with protective runes. When the city walls were breached during the siege, Empress Elara did not send mortal soldiers into the slaughter. She descended to the lower armory alone to awaken the ancient guardians. Standing before the silent rows of steel, Elara drew her silver ceremonial blade and cut a fine line across her palm. She let her royal blood drop onto the central altar, activating the slumbering elementals bound within the star iron suits. The empty suits of armor instantly stood at attention, their visor slots glowing with a fierce, ethereal violet light as they awaited her supreme command. Instead of commanding them to slaughter the enemy forces, Elara ordered the Shadow Guard to form an unbreakable barrier around the civilian sanctuaries. The Steel Guardians swept through the inner corridors, disarming invader battalions with terrifying precision and trapping them within magical quarantine barriers. Elara's tactical brilliance neutralized the entire assault without putting a single innocent citizen in harm's way. With the palace secured and her people saved from the brink of destruction, Elara commanded the Steel Guardians to lock their stances into permanent stone positions. She returned to her private sanctuary, lay down upon her velvet chaise, and allowed the amber amulet to seal the entire fortress in eternal tranquility. Her legendary strategy left the kingdom undefeated for all time. Hours before the Amber Amulet was activated, High Chancellor Raymond stood in the private study, begging Empress Elara to reconsider. He presented 3 alternative treaties, drafted with neighboring empires, agreements that required surrendering the southern trading ports in exchange for foreign military protection. Elara picked up the Sapphire signet seal, examining the parchment before throwing the treaties directly into the burning hearth. Ruler who sells her land to buy peace, Elara stated calmly, merely leases her people's slavery. She knew foreign legions would plunder Aethelgard's culture, dismantle its grand libraries, and turn its citizens into subjects of a foreign crown. Elara refused to leave her legacy or her kingdom's sovereignty at the mercy of greedy foreign emperors who viewed her realm only as gold and fertile soil. Instead, Elara drafted the Edict of Preservation, a royal decree ordering every governor to seal the city grain vaults and distribution hubs. She ensured that when the golden slumber enveloped the land, no citizen would wake to famine or lack. Every record, every farm, and every household was cataloged and locked in magical stasis under her direct royal authority. Beneath the Royal Observatory was the Crucible of Elements, a secret laboratory where Aethelgard's master alchemists forged rare magical compounds. For 3 full moons before the siege, Empress Elara supervised the creation of the Starlight Elixir needed to fuel the Amber Amulet. Master Malachor, the Grand Alchemist, warned her that combining celestial mercury with raw star crystal would require an immense sacrifice of her own life energy to bind the reaction. Without hesitation, Elara placed her hands over the boiling bronze crucible, pouring her royal magic directly into the glowing liquid gold. She watched as the swirling elements solidified into the flawless amber stone that now rests upon her chest.
The amulet was engineered not just as a defensive shield, but as a living vault designed to absorb every ounce of fear, stress, and pain from the kingdom's citizens during the grand slumber.
As the final crystal structure locked into place, rival spies attempted to sabotage the laboratory using hidden explosive charges. Elara intercepted the saboteurs herself, using her elemental wards to trap the blast within a localized energy dome, saving the laboratory and the finished amulet from total destruction. Her swift courage prevented the immediate downfall of her entire capital.
Holding the completed amber amulet in her hand, Elara dismissed the alchemists and sealed the Crucible chamber forever. She climbed the marble stairs to her private sanctuary, took her place upon the velvet chaise, and prepared for the final ritual. Her scientific brilliance and iron willpower had guaranteed her people's total safety against every threat.
Deep beneath the inner palace lay the imperial treasury, sealed behind a massive 12-ton iron lock forged with royal runes. Inside rested the accumulated wealth of 10 generations, chests of minted gold coins, glowing moonstones, and ceremonial royal crowns. As the northern invaders breached the lower gates, their vanguard mercenary captains made a desperate rush for the treasury, intent on looting the kingdom's vast fortunes. Anticipating their greed, Empress Elara appeared at the top of the treasury stairs alone, wearing her imperial silk and holding no weapons. The mercenary commanders hesitated, expecting an elite royal vanguard to launch an ambush. Instead, Elara offered them a choice: step inside the treasury and claim the gold, or retreat beyond the border with their lives intact. Overcome by avarice, the invaders ignored her warning and surged through the open iron vault doors, grabbing handfuls of gold and gem-encrusted relics. The moment their hands touched the treasure, Elara triggered the localized stasis trap built into the gold itself. The cursed gold instantly paralyzed their limbs, locking the greedy warlords in place as living statues of bronze and iron forever. Elara pulled the heavy iron lever, locking the vault doors permanently to secure the wealth of her civilization for future generations. Having neutralized the greedy mercenaries without wasting a single loyal soldier, she walked quietly up to her sanctuary chaise. Her supreme intellect and mastery of magical traps had saved Aethelgard's future once again. High above the clouds, atop the highest spire, stood the great bell of Aethelgard, forged from silver and star copper. For centuries, its chimes signaled royal coronations and sacred festival days across the empire. On the final night of the siege, as enemy siege engines hammered the outer stone gates, Empress Elara climbed the 300 spiral steps of the tower alone. She carried the glowing amber amulet in her hand, intending to use the massive silver bell as an acoustic amplifier for her dream magic. Reaching the open belfry, she touched the glowing stone against the ancient metal, fusing her royal soul energy directly into the bell's core. Below her, enemy war captains blew their battle horns, preparing to storm the inner sanctum and execute the royal family. With a final, decisive strike of her ceremonial staff, Elara struck the great bell. Instead of a harsh iron clang, a deep, melodic golden sound wave rippled outward across the city, dissolving every battle scream into sudden, absolute silence. The acoustic wave passed through stone walls, instantly putting every marching soldier, general, and citizen into a state of frozen stasis. The sound wave traveled to the furthest borders of Aethelgard, sealing the entire realm in a timeless, protected sanctuary. Satisfied that her kingdom was safe from war and mortality, Elara descended the spiral staircase to her private sanctuary, lying down peacefully upon her velvet chaise. Her brilliant mastery of sound and magic had granted her realm eternal victory.
while the land armies besieged the northern gates. A formidable armada of ironclad pirate ships and foreign warships quietly blockaded Aethelgard's southern trade bay. Admiral Drake, a ruthless mercenary sea lord, demanded 50,000 golden sovereigns or promised to bombard the coastal cities with fiery pitch. Empress Elara received his ultimatum in the war room, her expression cold and unbothered as she dismissed the panicked coastal envoys. Instead of deploying her imperial fleet into a bloody naval battle, Elara rode down to the cliffside lighthouse of Solitude. Armed only with the royal scepter and the binding amber amulet, she ascended the lighthouse beacon chamber. She knew that an ocean battle would pollute the pristine sapphire waters with blood and ruin the vital maritime trade routes forever. As Admiral Drake raised his flag to order the broadside cannon fire, Elara redirected the lighthouse's crystal beam directly through her amber jewel. The intensified golden light swept across the bay, instantly crystallizing the surface of the sea into solid, unbreakable amber glass. The entire war fleet was instantly trapped in place, cannons half-loaded, sails frozen mid-wind, and crews immobilized in absolute silence. Without launching a single fireship or sacrificing a single sailor, Elara effectively dismantled the sea blockade for eternity. Leaving the coastal trade bay locked in pristine, frozen protection, she returned to her velvet chaise in the inner palace, resting her tired limbs. Her ruthless tactical ingenuity had once again proven that no force could break her kingdom's sovereignty. High above the inner palace stood the celestial observatory, a grand dome housing a massive bronze astrolabe and star maps of the ancient world. 3 dark sorcerers, hired by the invading warlords, secretly infiltrated the observatory to disrupt the palace's magical alignment. They aimed to break the energy channel connecting the amber amulet to the stellar ley lines, intending to shatter the Empress's defensive barrier from within. Great in her ceremonial silk gown, Empress Elara entered the dome alone, stepping past the disabled guards without a trace of fear. The dark sorcerers unleashed a wave of shadow fire, attempting to overpower her raw royal magic. Elara casually raised her left hand, using her signet ring to redirect the dark energy directly into the massive gears of the revolving bronze astrolabe. As the celestial gears absorbed the spell, Elara rotated the central stellar lens to align with the Blood Moon constellation. A sudden beam of pure starlight pierced through the dome's glass apex, striking the sorcerers where they stood. The divine stellar light neutralized their dark curses instantly, locking the traitors into permanent marble statues beneath the star maps. With the observatory secured and the stellar alignment finalized, Elara locked the central astrolabe in its perfect position. She walked down the winding marble stairs for the last time, returning to her velvet chaise to complete her royal duty. Her supreme astrological intellect had ensured that no dark sorcery would ever disturb her kingdom's sleep. On the eve of the final slumber, inside the grand crypt chamber, the royal cupbearer was bribed by northern agents to mix nightshade venom into Empress Elara's ceremonial wine. They believed that assassinating the sovereign before the midnight hour would shatter her magical bond with the amber amulet, leaving the fortress undefended. As Elara took her seat at the high altar, the cupbearer presented the encrusted golden chalice with trembling hands. Elara brought the chalice to her lips, but her alchemical training instantly detected the faint, bitter aroma of dark nightshade. Without altering her serene expression, she swirled the golden wine, watching the venom react with the star iron ring on her finger, which turned a subtle crimson hue. Instead of calling for immediate execution, Elara quietly commanded the doors of the crypt chamber to be sealed from the outside.
Looking directly into the cupbearer's eyes, Elara tipped the chalice slightly, pouring a single drop onto the cold marble floor. The acid-infused venom hissed as it burned through the stone, exposing the betrayal before the entire royal guard. Elara raised her hand, using her elemental magic to transmute the poison in the chalice into liquid amber, neutralizing the danger in an instant without raising a sword. Terrified cupbearer collapsed to his knees, confessing every name involved in the conspiracy across the 5 provinces. Having exposed the final threat to her reign, Elara turned away, leaving the conspirators immobilized by her binding spell. She walked back to her private sanctuary, lying down on her velvet chaise in triumphant peace, her realm finally cleansed of all treason. At the iron-bound Sun Falcon Gate, General Maloric of the Northern Alliance reached the final courtyard with 500 heavy armored knights. He expected an army of desperate defenders. Instead, he found the inner courtyard empty, lined with towering marble arches and glowing silver lanterns. At the top of the grand stairs stood Empress Elara, draped in her off-the-shoulder silk gown, holding the royal scepter of Aethelgard. General Maloric laughed, demanding her immediate surrender and the keys to the kingdom's grain and gold vaults. "You have conquered empty stone, General," Elara replied, her clear voice carrying across the silent courtyard without fear. "You came to enslave a living empire, but you will only inherit a monument to your own greed." Maloric raised his broadsword to order the charge, but Elara tapped the base of her scepter against the marble floor once. The amber amulet on her chest erupted in a wave of golden light, sealing the courtyard gates and binding the knights' boots to the stone beneath them. The invaders watched in horror as their heavy steel armor hardened into solid stone, freezing their violent assault mid-step forever. Without a drop of blood spilled, the entire invading vanguard was disarmed and neutralized at the very threshold of her sanctuary. Elara turned away from the petrified army, walking back into the warmth of her inner chambers with unyielding grace. She sat down upon her velvet chaise, confident that her absolute authority over Aethelgard would never be broken. Returning to the imperial throne room, Empress Elara stood before the high seat of Aethelgard, a massive throne carved from black obsidian and inlaid with star gold. The central energy conduit beneath the dais pulsed in synchronization with the amber amulet upon her chest. Outside, the final siege weapons fell completely silent as her spell locked the entire perimeter of the empire into absolute stasis. Draped in her off-the-shoulder royal silk gown, she ascended the marble steps of the dais to complete the final protocol of the Edict of Preservation. She retrieved the ancient quill of monarchy and signed the final page of the imperial ledger, officially transferring the protection of her people from earthly guards to the ancient stellar runes. Her hand was steady, unyielding to the weight of the endless slumber she was about to seal. As the ledger closed with a sharp metallic echo, a soft violet light radiated from the crown jewels on her desk, fusing the laws of her empire into the stone walls forever. She turned toward her private inner chamber, leaving behind the throne that had seen centuries of glory, war, and political triumph. She had executed her grand plan without faltering once, proving her unmatched supremacy over every warlord who dared challenge her reign. Stepping through the heavy mahogany doors, she approached her velvet chaise, ready to settle into her eternal, victorious sleep. With the kingdom now completely untouchable to time and enemies alike, Elara reclaimed her seat of rest in profound peace. Her supreme sacrifice was complete, securing the eternal legacy of Aethelgard. The final midnight hour struck across the silent citadel of Aethelgard. Empress Elara slowly walked to the center of her private sanctuary, where her plush velvet chaise rested beneath a golden canopy.
Every threat was neutralized, every enemy army frozen in stone, and every citizen safely preserved within the realm's grand magical stasis. Draped in her lavish cream silk gown, she gracefully reclined upon the soft velvet cushions, placing her hand gently over the glowing amber amulet. She looked up at the intricate star maps etched into the high arched ceiling, knowing that her sacrifice had outsmarted time, war, and political ruin. Her legacy was not left in shattered ruins or written in blood, but sealed in absolute inviolable perfection. The central starlight crystal pulsed one last time. A gentle golden hue enveloped her entire sanctuary. Elara closed her dark, captivating eyes, letting a soft, victorious smile rest upon her lips as the spell reached absolute balance. Her royal consciousness merged completely with the heart of Aethelgard, becoming the immortal anchor that would shield her empire for thousands of years. The grand palace stood in utter, magnificent stillness, a monument to an invincible empress who chose eternal slumber over total destruction. Here, wrapped in velvet, gold, and timeless magic, Empress Elara rests in undefeated glory. Her spell is unbroken, her kingdom is saved, and her sovereign story is complete for all eternity.